Charlie, welcome to Indiana.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So excited to have you. Is this your first time to Indiana?
I thought it was, and then someone said, someone in the booth was like, I saw you last time you were here. I don't know if they're right, though. Because I was pretty sure it was my first time, but
But you're having a good time. If you were here,
well, yeah, but we don't get out much.
Yeah,
we don't get. I mean, I'm basing it on the convention center.
That's a very nice convention center, though. One of the best in the country.
And it seems everyone seems to be having a really good time. It's a very happy con.
Yeah. Charlie, there are so many people that wanted to ask questions. I think we're just going to jump right into it and get right to the questions right over here. All right.
Awesome.
Right over here, first question.
Hello. So my question is actually about Stardust and not Daredevil, which is probably odd. But because I know Neil Gaiman was a producer on the movie, did you acquaint yourself with the material before jumping in? Because it's a deeply weird book and a weird and wonderful movie. So how much research did you do on the role before doing everything?
Well, I read the book a couple of times. And then, I remember watching a bunch of stuff that I felt was genre appropriate. Like Princess Bride and Neverending Story and just that kind of stuff, which is so fun. It's so fun when you get to the research you do for a project is really fun stuff, And talked to Neil a bunch. I recently bought the Stardust graphic novels, which I didn't have. I don't know if they were around then, but I didn't know about them. And I remembered that there's a character that we took out of the film. Tristan has a little friend, does anyone know this? No. In the book there is another main character, which is Tristan's little helper friend guy. I can't remember his name, but I just was reading my daughter the graphic novels. I was like, oh yeah, we took that character out. I read a bunch of Neil's stuff and all that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. You did great.
Thank you.
Next question.
Big fan.
Thank you.
My name's Michael.
Hi, Michael.
I'm actually going to school to become a film director. So
Nice. Good luck.
Thank you. So what is it like to work on these big productions and work with these big directors on Daredevil and No Way Home and everything?
Well, yeah, so No Way Home is very different from our show. But I guess it doesn't feel massively different when you're on set. It's still. I've been doing this now for 20-something years, and I still kind of get goosebumps. Sometimes when I'm on set doing a particular thing. So I'm filming something at the moment, and we were on set the other day, and it's a really cool sequence that we've been filming, and it takes a whole week to shoot, and. I was getting to work each day and just thinking, this is so cool, man. This is so, So yeah, it's really the stuff of dreams. I'm so grateful. I'm still managing to play this character. My knees hurt a lot more than they did, and my back and stuff. But it's totally worth it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We talked about this before. Do you mind if we do a little behind the scenes for them? On No Way Home, because when you reach out, you catch the brick. But when they filmed it, it wasn't a brick, correct?
It was a snow globe.
It was a snow globe.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say that. I don't know what the rules are. But I noticed someone showed me online, some super nerdy fan had worked out that my hand wasn't the right shape for the brick. And so he'd somehow deduced that it wasn't originally a brick. I was like, wow, you have way too much time. She was right.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Snow globe.
All right, next question.
Hi, I wanted to ask, as an actor, what is the biggest thing that helps you get into character, and does that change depending on the project you're on, especially going from film to TV to theater and back and forth?
I think it probably does. Yeah, I think I try to find things that make me feel like what I think that person feels like. Shoes is a big one for me. I have to have the right shoes. I don't know why that is. I feel I feel as a human like different based on the shoes I wear that day. You know, I don't know what. That's so weird. But you know what I mean? Like I think I talk to people differently. I hold myself differently based on the shoes that I'm wearing. And so it's really important for me to find the shoes. The shoes. Like I'm working on something for many moons away, and I was talking to the costume designer about that, and she brought up Birkenstocks. All right, and I'm like, oh wow. So I have a lot of processing to do around that. Yeah. So yeah, shoes are a big one for me. I don't have, other than shoes, I don't have a lot of opinions about costume. I like to be told what they think is right. But I know other people feel very, they're very clear about what the costume's going to be. For some reason, I do a lot of accents. I'm always doing accents, which is ironic because I'm not actually that good at accents. I can do a good job, but I can't. It takes so much work for me, like so many hours and hours and hours of working on it. But for whatever reason, I've just become one of those guys who just always does accents, and no one ever knows that I'm English until I speak. Like so many people at these things are like, I go, hey, nice to meet you, and they're like, but yeah, like, so whatever makes you feel like what you think the person feels like,
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, great question.
When you mentioned your shoes, I could see all the heads in the audience. They all looked down and see what shoes they were wearing. It was like,
Oh yeah.
You're playing a character
Great costume.
You're playing a character that doesn't use like a lot of special effects to make his powers on screen. You're not like waving your hands and then lasers come out. And I understand that there are times that you're putting in like a lot of work for trying to affect that. Like one time you were talking about trying to catch a shirt behind your back, and it took you like an hour and a half because the character doesn't need to look to see his shirt. You do. Like, what's the pretty much the hardest thing that you've done as the character to get that effect of he has these powers, I don't, but I have to present that?
Yeah, really good question. So there's no one thing that's like that has. There's no one thing I remember. But there's a lot of days where we're trying to do something. The shirt is a really good example. So we had this idea with Rosario, who's here today, in the first season, that she would throw me my shirt and from behind me, but she wouldn't announce it. She would just be like in the middle of a chatting. It's in episode 4 of the first season, and she throws it, and without looking, I would just grab it and put it on. And of course, but we're in the middle of a conversation, so we had to have one go, and we'd do it until it worked. And so it would feel like, because that's how Matt would experience the world, right? And I just love that stuff. I think it's so fun. And when you get it right, it's so, I feel like it's super cool. We were doing a scene the other day. I think I can. This is not a spoiler. We were doing a scene the other day where I blow my nose, and I put a waste. I didn't tell anyone this. I just did it. I put a waste paper basket behind me, and just for fun was like blew my nose and threw it to see if it would go in. But the camera wasn't going to see it, so I was just doing it to like have fun. But it was like, apparently it was like the perfect shot. It literally went boom, boom, in the thing. And so the directors were like, oh, we got to do that. Like, let's get that. And then of course I couldn't do it again. But we got it. But I love that stuff, man. Anything that's like, with this character, it's so cool that there's this specific detail about him that he experiences the world unlike anyone you've ever met. And every time we get a chance to reference that is really important to me that we do that, because I just think it's so cool. Thank you. Great question.
The thing about Matt Murdock is, he's the man without fear, but it doesn't just like, I think the way you portray him, he's fearless in like court. He's fearless in like his everyday life. He doesn't have those little trepidations or nagging doubts. He seems to be so confident in what he's doing. He doesn't have that nagging doubt that a lot of us do. I think that's really
so good. I think he does.
Oh, really?
I think he does, and I do think he does experience fear. But that's what makes him so cool, is because when he experiences that fear, his next reaction to that is, I'm doing it anyway. You know, and I think that's what makes me excited about that character, is that because it's human, right? There's no such thing as I don't feel fear, but there's a difference between I feel fear and therefore I don't want to do it, I don't want to involve myself, and I feel fear, but I'm going to punch through it anyway, and that's what I think makes him the man without fear, because he overcomes it.
It's amazing. I love that insight.
Hi. So you've tended to play a lot of characters that have a lot of emotions, and usually not the best anger management techniques. I was wondering, what are your favorite ways to blow off steam or just process?
I'm a big fan of cold water. I do a lot of ice baths. I don't know if I'm wondering if that's related, but I kind of feel like it must be. I find that to be like, I sit in ice cold water for a long time, and I find that to be really. It slows your whole experience down. Probably not in a healthy way, but do you know what I mean? And I find that very kind of, I get a lot of clarity, I think, doing that. So that's one thing I do. Yeah, good question.
And your shirt, what's your shirt that you have there?
Yeah, it's Nelson Murdock.
Yeah, amazing.
Does anyone else do into that, or am I the only one in this room? Yeah, there's one, right? Yeah.
Hello, Charlie.
Hi.
I heard you have a theater background. I love theater. What's the greatest challenges you've experienced from going, because theater and film is a totally different acting style. I couldn't do film. I can do some theater. What's the greatest challenges or fun new things that you learned from going from one to the other? Of course, I could be wrong about your background in theater, but...
No, I've done some theater, yeah. So I can't, if something's funny that's not supposed to be funny, I have zero ability to get on with it.
Yep.
I can't. And so my when I'm doing theater work, sometimes my biggest fear is that something funny is going to happen, because I can't not laugh. Tom Hiddleston is a great friend of mine, and obviously I was expecting a cheer there. I didn't. Woo! We did a play together, and we're great friends. And there was one scene in particular that was quite a funny scene in and of itself, but there was a lot of eating involved in this scene. And we did this play in London and in New York. And often he was eating. See, I can't. So for the way the play was written, I order a starter. I order an appetizer of melon, and he has melon with ham, prosciutto and melon, right? And so he has to eat twice as much as me. And this never got old to me, because he was trying to eat and talk at the same time. And there were just days where he was trying to get it all in, or he'd almost choke on it. And I just couldn't. And I'm supposed to be in the scene, I'm not supposed to be laughing for sure.
Yeah.
There was one day where he picked up a bit of melon, and then he waved his fork, and the melon went up and landed in his wine glass. Wow. I was I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't speak for about a minute. I was I had tears coming down my face. So that's a challenge.
Yes.
And we have that I get that on set all the time, but it doesn't matter because you can just go again. Yeah. But we did have a scene once with Deborah and Eldon had to say, he's not, so talking about someone, his line was, he's not the freshest fish. And Eldon, for whatever reason, could not get that right. He couldn't say freshest fish, because he kept saying freshest frished. And it got really bad, because it was half an hour. Yeah, great question, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next question.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, in the Daredevil show, especially in the mid-seasons, you're in like normal attire a lot, in the glasses with the eye thing where you just look down. And I was wondering, what steps did you have to take with like choreographers and anything else to like be able to like still get that right while also navigating the sets and like choreography with like fighting scenes and stuff like that?
Do you mean, are you saying like how, when I'm playing the character, what I do with my eyes?
Yeah, with like how do you make it look like you're like looking off and like not looking at anything, because that's how you play a blind man, and like also navigating the sets with people walking around and stuff.
Well, so when you say navigating the sets, you mean just like walking around and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that part is relatively easy because you can see a lot when you're not looking directly at it, you know. Like tricky scenes are like cooking. Like if I'm cooking, I remember I used to cook in Matt's apartment or make coffee and stuff. That can be quite difficult because you have to like pick up lots of things and find small objects whilst talking, but you can't obviously look at them. So what I tend to do is like after we rehearse the scene, I get really specific about exactly how I'm going to do it and exactly where every item is going to be, and then it's just about practicing it as much as possible. And you know, usually you can get enough options where you've managed to pick up the thing and do what you need to do without actually having to look at it. It's just practice, really. Yeah. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Quinn, and I was wondering if there's any characters in the MCU that you were excited to work with.
So I've stopped answering this question. because every time I say it, it then becomes like a news story. And then I worry that the grown-ups at Marvel will be like, well, we're not doing that then. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So, to be honest, I wasn't when I started this job because I didn't grow up reading comics, but I've become a fan. And so I get kind of excited about any kind of crossover gets me excited. And so the ones in your head, I feel the same way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you have become a comic book fan because you mentioned to me one time, you were talking about how when you're preparing for the role of Daredevil, you would get on the subway train and read. Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit how you started preparing for the role of Daredevil when you first got that?
Yeah, so I mean, when I first got the job, there was a lot of work for me to do to prepare for the role. Like, you know, he's visually impaired, he's a martial artist, he's much bigger than I was. Has an American accent. He's a lawyer. I mean, so many things that I had no idea about anything. And then, you know, and so I found an apartment in Fort Greene, but then they hooked me up with a trainer at a gym in Manhattan, which is like a 40-minute subway ride. So what I would do is I'd use those subway rides to read comics. So I'd get on the subway and I'd read, you know, 2 comics to get there and then 2 comics to get back. And I'd get 4 comics a day. And just get through as many as I could. So, which was fine until we got to the second season, because by the time we got to the second season, everyone knew who I was, and so, and I'm now now on the subway trying to read comic books, and I couldn't do it. So,
Next question.
Hi.
Hello. So what kind of characteristics do you feel that you and Matt Murdock have like similar with each other?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, going back to that earlier question someone had is, about preparation. I think it's really good to identify what do you get for free as the actor. Like, how are you guys similar? Because you can use that, but then also ask the question like, how are we not similar, and make sure that you hit both. How are we similar? Yeah. That's a really. Did you guys hear that? We look exactly the same. That's really funny. I think we both have a similar sense of humor, quite a dry sense of humor at times. Do you know what? The more I think about it, the more I've focused on the elements where we're different, and that's been helpful to me. Like one of the things I love about playing Matt is he's not a people pleaser at all. Like he doesn't care. He'll tell you the truth, and then he lets you deal with the feelings that you have about it. But he doesn't try and manage anyone else's feelings. He tells them the truth. And that's really refreshing because I'm not like that. Like I'm like a people pleaser. I don't want people to feel unhappy or sad about something. So like try and sugarcoat things. And he doesn't do that at all. I have as someone else referenced, I have a better anger management than Matt does, thankfully. Yeah, good question. I mean, there's a few things in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Brandon. My question was, what motivated you? Because you had previously said that you didn't ever read comic books or anything about superheroes growing up. What motivated you to play as Daredevil, being a blind hero or vigilante or such?
What motivated me to do what?
To play the role as Daredevil.
Oh, I was just out of work. No, I mean, I was like, I don't mean to be. I don't mean to sound trite. It's, as an actor, as a young actor, you just get any job you can get. At first at least, until you become like a I mean, even to this day, I still have to try and get work. And yeah, like what happened? The journey for me was they sent me an audition. It wasn't called Daredevil. It was the character's name was Alex. I remember that. I didn't know anything about it, but my agents were like, "There's an audition for you to go to." I went to the audition, and that went well. And then they told me what it was. And then I had like a screen test, and then I had a Skype with the producers, and then I had to fly for another screen test. But at some point, they let me go into Disney in London, which Disney has an office in London. And I was allowed to go and read the first 2 episodes, which had been written by Drew Goddard. And they put me in a room, and I read, and I had a guy watch me read them, because just so I don't know, what was I going to do? I mean, maybe photograph it or something. But and then that's when I got nervous, because I read the first 2 episodes. I was like, oh damn, this is really good. And there was a point where they were like not sure if they wanted me to audition for Matt or Foggy. Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, I really want to be in this, but I really want to be Daredevil. So I kind of said, like, I just want to read for Matt, and if I don't get it, then it'll be something else. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
All right.
What's up, Spidey?
Hi. Ironically enough, my name is also Matt. So, compared to everyone else's questions, mine might be a little silly. But if you were to have any superpower at all, what do you feel like you could get the most use out of?
That's a good question, because it's not normally phrased that way, right? It's normally, what do you want? What could you get the most use out of? Because I want to fly. I don't know if that's you get the most use out of it.
You certainly
I guess power of healing. Ooh. Right? The power of healing. That would be cool. Oh, yeah. That'd be cool. I still want to fly, but I think that's the right thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Noah.
Hi, Noah.
I was just
okay, so Noah is wearing one of my costumes from season 2, right?
3.
Season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier on, he has the official. Yeah, and I want it back. That's the point of this. So if you guys could all get him.
Invitation to Daredevil Born Again premiere, then maybe.
So that's season 3? I thought it was 2. Season 3.
Season 3.
When I was like a homeless person.
Yep.
Right.
I was just wondering, since it's been a while since the original Netflix show and the new show, were you cautious or nervous, or did you just put the Matt Murdock shoes on and you're like, let's get back to work?
I was a little, yeah, I was a little nervous. You know, like, so I hope this isn't too like inside baseball, but I sometimes find when you play, not me, but when you play a character for a long time. This is the first time I've played a character for a long time, but with TV shows that I love, if they're long-running TV shows, what I think sometimes happens is the first seasons are way better than the later seasons. And often I think it's partly because the actors develop this character, but then over time, as they're doing it so much, it stops feeling like a character. So then they start acting the character, and it begins to become a bit cartoony, right? Like, I love Friends, but for me, the first 4 seasons are, the characters are just way more interesting to me than the later on, right? So that was one thing I was thinking about, is like, I don't want to be, because Matt feels probably so familiar to me now, I don't want to be trying to add to it so that it feels like I'm doing Matt. Does that make sense? Is that a bit weird? Yeah. So I was a bit nervous about that, like trying to remember like how it was pitched initially. And what I've always loved about our show was that he's just really, these characters hopefully feel really human. I mean, guess we'll find out if I've succeeded. But they let me watch a little bit of it, and I feel good about it. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
So I got to ask, we asked the audience before you got here, and you're one who can definitively tell us.
Don't judge me right now.
All right. We're not going to judge you at all. A lot of cameras popped up, though. So, who's a bigger baddie, Thanos or Kingpin?
I don't want to go to work on Monday with Vincent having said someone else. Yeah, I think that's the answer right there. Yeah,
That's it right there.
yeah.
All right. Next question.
Hi, Charlie.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. So, what do you do for some of your vocal exercises for when you like have to get an accent for character?
Say again.
What do you do for some of your vocal exercises, like when you get into Matt?
Oh, well, no, I don't. I mean, I do a lot of work, like before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I work with a voice coach, and then I have someone also record some of my lines and just listen to that a bunch. But on the day, not really much. I mean, I just kind of, by then, my feeling with acting is that all the work should be, on the day, you shouldn't be thinking about any of the other work.
Okay.
It should just be there. And then you can be free, and you can just listen to what the characters are saying and just react. And then if my accent slips, that's fine. I can fix it later. You can fix that and stuff in ADR, or it'd be good on another take or something like that. But yeah, I don't really do any voice warm-ups or anything like that. Drama school kind of ruined that for me.
That's fair.
I mean, when I'm doing theatre, I do that, because you have to obviously be heard at the back of an auditorium. So, yeah, the voice stuff. I mean, no, it's more my body. It's like stretching. That's the stuff I try and do every day is stretch. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Next question.
Hello.
Hi.
My question is, when you're not in character, so like when you're with like Tom Holland from Spiderman, or you're with like Tom Hiddleston from theater, do you guys have banter that like we as Americans just wouldn't understand or find hilarious?
Yeah, I mean, we have British humor. We're all three of us, the people you just mentioned, are Brits.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure we have our sense of humor is slightly different. It's very dry and sarcastic and stuff, I'm sure. It's also like the small language barriers, that that often people don't. If you hear, like if two of us are chatting and someone overhears that conversation, often that can, like, it just sounds like it can feel like a different language because you're just, talking in the vocabulary that you grew up with. I was saying to my wife the other day, I said, put your I'm trying to remember which way round it is now. I think I said put your boots. Yeah, wellies is English, right? Or you say welly, or you say, what do you guys say? Boots. So I said put your wellies in the boot. And she was like, what? And I was like, I had to translate it. I was like, put your boots in the trunk.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Mason. Kind of a cop-out question. What's a question you've always wanted to be asked? And if you want to answer it, feel free to. I'm not going to make you.
What is a question I've always wanted to be asked? How much shall I make the check out to? I don't know. I don't know if I've ever I don't know if I've ever wanted to be asked a specific question. Yeah, I don't. I can't. Honestly, I've got. It's a great question, but I don't think.
You're like, how did you become so good looking?
Oh, that's really uncomfortable. But I'm one of those people who I'm horrified by any compliment. It makes me so uncomfortable. So like anything like that is like, yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I am Phoenix, and my top question for you is: what is your favorite scene in Daredevil?
So there's no one favorite. There's a lot of really, really good memories. I'm not sure. I haven't seen all of it, so I don't. But in terms of like when we shot it and stuff that I really enjoyed shooting, I'm really proud of the fight scene in season 3 in the prison, just because I was able to do so much of that, and it was such a big achievement, and it was such a hard few days. And I just think it's so cool. It just came out so well. So I'm really proud of that. There's a period of season 2 where Matt and Karen get really close. And we go on like a few dates and we have a kiss. And then at night he's then going out with Elektra. And that was just really fun. Do you know what I mean? But it was like fun. It was fun in a challenging way because I truly believe that Matt loves Karen. But he also loves the danger of Elektra. And I just saw that as a really fun challenge because I wanted it to feel authentic and romantic, but not like duplicitous. I felt like if you watch that and it comes across as him being like not a good dude, that would be wrong for him. I feel like you have to feel like he's being pulled in 2 different directions and he's doing his best. But they're just such different people. It was really fun.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. I remember there was a cool little story about that. I remember we had Elodie plays Elektra so wonderfully, and she has a scene. We have a scene together in a diner, and it was written that she's eating a lot of food. She's ordered a lot of food, and she's eating a lot of food, and I'm sat there just angry, or whatever. And on the first take, I remember we sat down, and we still didn't know each other this well that well at this point. And we sat down, and in the first take, which is like a wide, she ate like a hamburger and 2 slices of pizza and a bunch of French fries. And I was like, oh my God, that is a lot of food in the first take. Like you gotta manage that. You got a whole day of, And then by like the 3rd take, we're not even in the close-ups yet. And she's like, I'm so stuffed. I was like, yeah, what do? You gotta slow down. Anyway, by the end of the day, I felt so sorry for her. I was like, she's not gonna make it. She's like,
excellent. Go ahead.
What was going through your head when you got the call to come in for She-Hulk?
Yeah, it was the show had been over for a few years, a couple of years at least. In my mind, it was over and done, and out of the blue, I got a call from Kevin, and you know, it was pretty surreal. I actually, it was in the middle of COVID, and I actually thought he was calling. I genuinely thought he was calling because maybe we were going to try and do some, you know, big charity event, something, raise money for people suffering with COVID, and when he said, like, we're thinking of, are you interested in coming back and doing some more stuff? I was like, just speechless. You know, it was wild, man. It's wild. And then he told me about one scene in Spiderman, a couple episodes of She-Hulk, and then he said, and we'll see what happens after that. So I don't think he had any plans for us to be doing another show at that point. And then I didn't hear anything for like 2.5 months, and I was like, oh, did I dream this? Like, is this real? Because I couldn't tell anyone, you know. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty wild, and to be sat here and, you know, we've almost, you know, finished filming this season. It's pretty exciting.
When he asked you, were you trying to play it super cool, like, oh, yeah, let me think about that, or were you just like, yep?
Oh yeah, I was like, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. Whatever it is, I'm in. Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
What would you say is your favorite, like, character moment for Daredevil in the show?
What do you mean?
Like that is a good, like, defining character scene, like, that makes you think that's like a core element of Matt, like a scene from that, if there is one. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man. I guess that there's a few. I'm sure there's many. I'm trying to think of a really good example.
You don't have to get out of the list.
The one that's popping into my head right now is I really like there's a few of them, but like I really like scenes where Matt is both terrified and exhilarated by the danger, and those two things can coexist. And the scene that's popping into my head is the first scene that I have with Elektra.
Okay.
Don't know why. When she shows up in my apartment, and I think it's like the beginning of episode 5 of season 2.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, and I just seem to remember. I'm not sure if I've ever seen it, but I remember when we shot it. It was like that, trying to find that placement of like, this is terrible news. How exciting. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Great question.
I think you actually described why people love Daredevil so much, though. Is for like the other characters, it's fun to watch, it's spectacle, but we don't really fear for them. We know that they're always gonna come out. Daredevil, it's thrilling but terrifying because you're so relatable, and we worry about the character. We're like, is he going to make it? Because sometimes you get your butt handed to you, and it's just it's so refreshing to watch a character like that because you're very relatable, and you portray that so well on the screen for us that we can identify with that. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, I think also with Matt, there's other things at stake. You know, like it's not just whether he makes it, whether he's going to survive literally, but it's also whether he's going to cross a line that he can't come back from, both in terms of both morally, but also from his religious background. You know, those are so there's lots of plates in the air. You know, and we've seen in the show as well. You've seen him have to at times he's had to like put it away because he can't deal with that level of responsibility and with what's going on inside of him. Yeah.
So, all right, we have time for one more question right here.
Okay, thank you. I did not think this was going to be the last question because this is going to sound crazy. I have not seen Daredevil. It's on my list, I promise. But I have heard that because you couldn't like look at someone directly because you're playing a blind guy, that you had issues afterwards, like after the show, making eye contact with people. Is that like true?
No, I know what you're referring to. There's a story out there which is kind of vaguely true. I mean, it kind of got slightly blown out of proportion, but you know, I auditioned for another role and a few other roles, and you know, I was so used to playing this character that I was not looking at my fellow actors. It's just force of habit, you know. It was a small story that I told, and it's become a big thing, and it's kind of true, but not as. It wasn't like an issue, you know. It was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you want to? Does this guy want to ask one last question to end on that? Thank you.
42 seconds. Go ahead.
What was the main Daredevil comic run that inspired the way that you played him?
Yeah, good question. So the one that I always read before each season is I go back to 2011, I think, or is it 2008? I can't remember where it starts. But the Bendis Malief stuff, I always go back to that. And then there's a few on my list that I think of as like iconic for the show that we're trying to make. Frank Miller's runs. The Brubaker Lark stuff, Daredevil Yellow, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Daredevil Yellow. A lot of stuff that Joe Quesada did that I really like, Guardian Devil, all that stuff. End of Days, David Mack. So there's a few, but like the Bendis Malief stuff, I think in terms of tone, is hard to beat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, can you please give a huge round of applause for Charlie Cox?